and welcome back. In the previous videos, we've covered a few aspects of MVP, including the benefits, the challenges, and the overview of MVP. And today, we will be looking at some companies and how MVP contributed to their success. In the next few slides, we will be looking at 6 companies. We will review how they started, what was their MVP approach, and also a quick look on the keys to success of their MVP. First, let's look at Facebook. Facebook didn't really start it as Facebook, but rather Mark and 3 of his classmates created a website called FaceMash. This is a website where the concept was very simple. Users would be able to see 2 photos of students compared side by side, and friends will be able to choose which of the 2 students is hot and not. So unfortunately, the website was shut down, and that's because Mark and his friends actually hacked Harvard servers to get the pictures of those students. So when we look at the MVP of Facebook, they started after FaceMash, they actually started the Facebook back in 2014. And it certainly did not have all the features and services it currently offers. Mark originally created the application as a universal directory for students at Harvard University. And in the beginning, there was some kind of restriction, and it was only for Harvard students. When it started getting more popular, they expanded it to other universities such as Stanford, Columbia, and Yale, to the point that they even started expansion in other countries such as UK, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Australia, and New Zealand, and they started including high schools in various countries. Now, in September of 2016, they dropped and they kept Facebook alone and opened its services to everyone with a valid email address as long as you're 13 years and older. So when you look at the investments that they've been able to get, they started with $500,000 back in 2004, and in 2017, they were able to get $240 million in funding. Now, when you look at the keys to success of Facebook's MVP, I would really say that they were centered on 2 things. The first one is they built a basic model, and it was very specific. The functionality was very specific. The second thing is that they only released it to a small group of early adopters who tested the application and provided them feedback. All right, moving on. Twitter. So Twitter, I'm sure everybody know, originally it wasn't spelled as Twitter, but it was TWTTR. And it really started as an SMS service for Odeo. And why Odeo? It's because the board members of Odeo, which are Jack Dorsey, Evan Williams, Biz Stone, and Noah Glass, they actually started Odeo, which was a podcasting company, and they wanted to come up with an idea where their employees can communicate internally with a small group of people. So that's kind of how it started, And their MVP, again, it was designed for internal users at Odeo as a way to send messages to other employees and be able to see it at a group level. After the initial testing, Twitter was released to the public back in 2006. But the real success of Twitter really started when it was featured in the Southwest Interactive Conference in 2007. And a lot of people saw it during that event. There were people who registered from that day. It increased from 20,000 per day to 60,000 after that conference. And their initial funding was at $5 million in 2017. In 2019, they were able to get $100 million in funding. Now, I'm sure everybody is aware, Twitter went public on 2013, and they are valued over, a few billion dollars. When you look at the keys to Twitter's success, I would also say that it's based on really two things. The first one is it was released to a very small group of people who tested it, provided feedback, and in that essence, even probably if there were a lot of bugs and a lot of things that needed to be fixed, they only focus on that small group. That way they won't have a backlash in customer experience or user experience in the end. The second thing is we can attribute their MVP success to the many features that Twitter encompasses from when it started the release. So they really focused on the simplicity of it, the very basic focus, which was sending an SMS to the internal co-workers. So they really kind of focus on that particular feature. All right, Dropbox. So Dropbox, they started as a safe and secure storage solution, and the founder of Dropbox wanted to put up a cloud or a storage solution, even though there's already quite a bit out during that time, because he wanted to focus on the simplicity of the storage solution. Drew noticed that there were a lot of services out there, but there were also a lot of annoying problems that came with their service. So again, he wanted to focus on the simplicity. So the MVP of Dropbox was quite interesting because they didn't even have an actual product. What they did is that they came up with a 30-second video that visually demonstrated their product, and that video explained what Dropbox is, and they explained how it would help people. And sure enough, after releasing the video, the company increased their signups from 5,000 people to 75,000 overnight for what they call the early access of Dropbox. So very, very interesting, because after they released that, they also got these email addresses for interested future customers. So this method, they were really able to get their prospected customers and also use those prospective customers to gain feedback for the product that they have not yet created, but they just conceptualize. Um, from an investment perspective, Dropbox started in 2007 with 15,000, and in 2014 they were able to get $350 million. So keys to success for Dropbox, one is that they were able to successfully validated their original idea as well as their assumption through market research and customer research, which was very, very clever of them. Second is that they really kept the product simple and they stuck to the most important functionalities. All right, so Zappos is the next company that we're going to talk about. I know a lot of you may know, but for you who probably are not familiar with Zappos, this is a company that sells shoes on their website. And how it started is that the founder, Nick Swinmurn, had a negative experience because he got really frustrated looking for shoes, but he couldn't find the right shoes for him. And so that negative experience helped him come up with an idea. Their MVP at Zappos was basically a simple website with photos of shoes that they took from different shoe shops and they put it online. They were able to test that. And with that being said, the company is already a multi-billion-dollar e-commerce company. In fact, Zappos was acquired by Amazon back in 2009. They started with $150,000 worth of investment in 1999 and 2004. They received $20 million in funding, and again, have been acquired in 2009 by Amazon. So keys to success for Zappos, first is that it built this very simple yet very effective website that showcased the idea that there are other ways to get your shoes besides possibly going into an actual shoe shop. The second key to success is the testing assumption by first confirming that there is a market for that business. So the fact that the founder didn't buy shoes right away, what they did was just took photos of shoes from different shops, then posted it on the website before they actually purchased them. So when customers started purchasing them online, that's when they actually bought the actual shoes. Now the next one is Airbnb. Airbnb is also very, very interesting because they were able to validate their idea in a very short period of time, and with no money to build the business, the founders of Airbnb used their own apartment to validate that idea. It all started with an online peer-to-peer rental housing idea, and what they did for their MVP is that they created a very minimalist website where they publish photos of their own property and found that there were people that were interested in renting it right away. Their journey started with that simple website, and then the next thing is that they started gathering up beds in their small apartment, posted it on the web. After that, their first customers were actually only 3 customers, and they realized there's a potential. And from an investment perspective, they started with back in 2019. 2014, they received $519 million in funding. And as of today, Airbnb has 150 million users and about 4 million listings, and the company is already valued at 30 billion. So key points on their success for MVP is very similar to Zappos. It's that simple, minimalist website, and they tested their assumption in a smaller scale before launching it at a bigger scale. Now, last but not the least, I want to share with you our company, StreetBuy. How we really started was also based on a negative experience at a cafe. My very good friend Ray was at a cafe, and there was a long line at the cafe, and he asked himself, why can't I order without getting up? Why do I have to get up and fall in line and order my coffee and my donut? And with that, it kind of evolved into us wanting to help solve some of the major problems in the SME world, the SME industry. And our MVP, we started with just a simple directory where users can go on the app and they can look at what are the different restaurants and cafes in the area. At that time, you weren't able to purchase anything on the app, but it was just a simple directory. And from an investment perspective, we received our first angel investment of $500,000 back in 2016. And as of the moment, we have already received over 15 million pesos in investment. And we continue to use MVP as a strategy whenever we come up with new services and new features for the app. So for example, if we want to add a certain feature, we don't necessarily launch it in all of our cities. What we would do is we would launch it small scale as a trial in a smaller city. We would use that particular city to test and then collect feedback. And if it works, we then launch it in all of our cities. So that wrap-ups our case study. I hope that that helped you guys, convinced you guys that MVP is really a valuable tool for us founders and startups, especially at an early stage of our journey. Thank you, and stay tuned for the next video, which we will cover the different step-by-step guide on how to build an MVP.